So today, I'll be talking about the role of the domain name system with in relation to the digital economy. Before I start with that, though, I will do a acknowledgement to country. It's something that the auDA team pride themselves on and do. I've never done one before, so I'm reading from the piece of paper, so don't mind me while I read off the paper. I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as traditional custodians of the land on which this meeting is held, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today in the room and online. I also wish to acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's commitment to innovation and technology over many millennia, and commitment we in the auDA community deeply respect and share. So yeah, the DNS, I will take you through that today and explain how it works with our digital economy, and then open up for questions from all of you, because I'm sure you'll have some burning questions about how the internet works. Not me, but it is me. I'm the Chief Technical Officer or Technology Officer at auDA. I generally try and keep my face off all social media and stuff like that. So I stick up this guy. Long story short, he's part of an ad campaign that circulated through Asia for Guinness beer. And so when I traveled through Asia a lot, I was asked if I was this guy, and people were surprised that I wasn't as good looking as him. But we moved on from there. So what do I know about the internet, and what qualifies me to stand up here and talk to you about DNS? I started playing with computers around 1994 in high school. So that was later in my high school. I graduated in 96, so I'm ticking over in the years right now. But when I started playing with computers and the internet, we basically had floppy disks. The internet was still running over modems with your telephone that you would put over a modem. I was able to basically try and open a web page, or type out an email and go to send it and go make dinner, make a few phone calls, come back, and it was about halfway done. So I've been around for a long time and watched it grow over the years. Netscape Navigator, if anybody's ever heard of that, that was my browser of choice back in the day. And again, at school, we did a lot of emails and stuff back forward. So specifically in the internet industry, I've been here for 19 years, 19 and a half now. So a little bit of a veteran there, and certainly the longest tenure in our organization. I'm self-taught, so I've had plenty of on-the-job training. I didn't do a degree. I did attend uni, but I did hospitality management and lasted about 1 year before I got out. So I've managed to get into a good job, and just through inquisitiveness and the ability to meet people who have come up in the industry, I've learnt from there. I certainly, whilst it's possible to do that, I kind of do look back and wish I had done some form of degree and understood the fundamentals. It's been quite a hard road without getting that baseline education in there, but it's possible to do. And as I say there, I have been with the company 19 years, so I know pretty much all aspects about auDA. So a little bit about the company, auDA. We say auDA, it's .au Domain Administration, formed in 1997, was originally called ADNA, the Australian Domain Name Authority, and then we changed the name to auDA in 1999. We're an industry body that's supported by the government, so we're not a government body. We are approved by the government, and they still hold the rights to run the .au namespace if they wish, if auDA isn't doing a good enough job. auDA officially took over the space in 2001, and there was already 282,000 and change domain names registered in the space. So it wasn't small. There's still plenty of spaces out there now that don't have that many, but it certainly wasn't as large as it is today. Does anyone have any idea how many names are up to now in .au and then AU namespace? 4.2 million now in the .au namespace. So we're custodians for 4.2 million. That is, if I do my math, about a 1,400% growth since 2001. Not bad. Not as good as crypto, but not bad. So auDA does a lot of things. Our core is running what's called the registry, and that's where we are responsible for mapping names to numbers, or mapping who owns, or in our case, license a domain name. So in AU, it's a license, and you can hold that from anywhere between 1 and 5 years. When you register a domain name, in order for it to be viewable on the internet, you need to have DNS. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. And that's the mapping of names to numbers so that it's visible in the DNS. A couple other things that we do is we appoint registrars. So we don't sell domain names to the public. We have set a wholesale fee. They're what's termed a registrar you will work with if you're ever running your own company, doing a startup, whatever, personal page. You will interact with the registrar. That registrar is who will give you the domain name. In AU, they will do that based on the policies that auDA writes. So we also write policy and govern the space. So there are certain criteria you need to meet as a registrant in order to get domain names in certain spaces in .au. And we're a membership-based organisation, which you'll hear more about that as we wrap up. So digital economy, I guess, let's start with that. What's the digital economy? I hunted around, I found this big block of text that defines it, right? So defined as the Australian government is a global network. At the end of the day, this really is just doing business online, right? Your digital economy is anything that does business online is classed as digital economy. Now, if you want to take a look at where we are, where digital economy sits in our in the economy, right? It's the 7th largest producer of income. So it's pretty big, right? That's 7.8%, $8.6 billion the digital economy contributes to Australia's economy. So there's a lot of business being done online. Many of you will interact with heaps of services that are Australian-based that contribute to this, and potentially one day will be contributing yourself through a business. But what makes all of this work? Right? Something has to make it all work. Something has to be fast enough to make your pages appear on your page, appear on your screen as soon as you type them in. Just some examples. As I said, it's basically anything online. So I won't read out everything on there, but social media, your streaming platforms, video conferencing, as we're doing right now, e-health. All of these are part of what is termed the digital economy, or contributes to that. Australia's early adopters of the internet as well. So we sit right up there from a business point of view. 99% of businesses in Australia are connected to the internet. So we rely heavily on the internet, and we adopt new technologies very quickly. And the internet was one of that, and so is domain names. I may talk about this further, but I'll further down the track, but I'll mention it now. So in the early 90s, when the internet was coming about and there was domain names, Australia was like the 5th highest registrations of domain names in the world. So we jump on things really quick. And you'll also notice, mobile phones or new technologies come out, Australians are really quick to grab it. So, it's pretty important to us that we have a stable internet, and the DNS provides us with that. So here it is. So what's the DNS? As I said, it's mapping the names to the numbers, right? It's a text file that lives on multiple servers all around the world, and it has a name on the left-hand side and it maps to a number on the right-hand side. If you didn't have that, you would need to know what these are. And these are IP addresses, right? I'm sure everybody in this room knows what they are. They're an IP address. It's how machines talk by numbers, IPs. Does anyone know what this first IP address would be? Who it belongs to? If you punch that in your browser, where would you end up? Quick. eBay. You'll end up at eBay on that one, right? How many of you could remember that every time you wanted to go and get something off eBay? Maybe I'm old. Maybe nobody uses eBay anymore. They might use Facebook Marketplace. We might use, whatever. Second one. Anyone know what that IP address goes to? It's Facebook. When you go to Facebook, you go on that address. What about this one here? Should know this one. It's Monash's webpage. It's their homepage, right? And if you want to log into my Monash, you'd have to punch in that IP address and you'd get it pulled up. Now, 404 not found on which one? For the Monash, right. When I looked it up, that's the IP address that points for my .monash, right? And so you can imagine for all the services that you use every day, your bank, if you're, real estate, if you're online shopping, any of those, if the DNS didn't exist, you would have to remember all of these, or you would have to start storing your own file. And when that changed, you'd have to know that it changed, and you'd have to be able to update in order for the internet to work. It's really not manageable. Humans aren't designed to remember 4 blocks of numbers over and over again for different places, right? So this DNS came about, and we map names to numbers. It's the workhorse of the internet. It is magic in a sense, right? Because it happens extremely quickly. But it's silent and efficient. And as I said, it's very fast. I'm going to play a little video now that will explain it probably a bit better than I do. I really like this video because it really breaks down all the parts of how the DNS works. If you've seen it, I apologize. If you haven't seen it, sit back and listen away. Hopefully the audio will work.
Okay, let's begin. The domain name system is indisputably one of the most important and overlooked parts of the internet. Without DNS, the internet as we know it today would collapse, and we would all be licking stamps to pay our bills, driving to an actual store to purchase something, reading the newspaper to see what movies were showing, or buying little round pieces of plastic called CDs to get our music. How can we say that DNS is this important? We all know, or should know, that the computers that make up the internet are set up in large networks that communicate with each other via underground or underwater wires and are identified using strings of numbers known as IP addresses. Since the majority of us lack the mental capacity to sort through and retain hundreds of numerical series, DNS is used to translate an actual name into these numbers. But how does the domain name system work? In a web browser, let's say you enter the URL www.example.com as an example. When you type www.example.com into your address bar, you will actually be looking for www.example.com . Yes, there is a dot at the end of the domain name, one that you never see and one that you never type. When you type in www.google.com, you are actually going to the page www.google.com . Seriously, try it out. Oh wait. Okay, look, that's long enough. Anyway, that end dot represents the root of the internet's namespace.
The root.
Why is this so important? Because this is where it all begins. When you first search for www.example.com, your browser and your operating system will first determine if they know what the IP address is already. It could be configured on your computer, or it could be in memory, what the cool kids call cache. No, not cash as in cash money. The memory cache. C-A-C-H-E. Keep up, will ya? Anyway, so the browser asks the operating system, and they both don't know where www.example.com is. What happens next? The operating system is configured to ask a resolving name server for IP addresses it does not know. The resolving name server is the workhorse of the DNS lookup. It is either configured manually or automatically within your operating system. Your operating system asks, or queries, the resolving name server for www.example.com. The resolving name server may or may not have this in memory, or, cache. Yes, the C-A-C-H-E one, not the... Never mind. For the sake of this demonstration, it does not. The only thing that all resolving name servers should know is where to find the
root
name servers. Yes, that enigmatic dot that appears at the end of every domain name you type into that address bar. The root name servers will reply with,
I don't know, but I do know where to find the COM name servers. Try there.
The COM name servers are called the top-level domain name servers, or TLD name server.
auDA sits with AU.
The resolving name server then takes all of this information from the root name servers, puts it in its cache, and then goes directly to the COM TLD name servers. When the resolving name server queries www.example.com, the TLD name servers respond,
I don't know, but I do know where to find the example.com name servers. Try there.
This next set of name servers are the authoritative name servers. So how did the ComTLD name servers know which authoritative name servers to use? With the help of the domain's registrar. When a domain is purchased, the registrar is told which authoritative name servers that domain should use. They notify the organization responsible for the top-level domain, the registry, and tell them to update the TLD name servers. So, anyway, the resolving name server takes the response from the TLD name server, stores it in cache, and then queries the example.com name servers. At this point, the authoritative name server will say, Hey, I know where that is! Tell your browser to go to the IP address 192.168.1.1. The resolving name server takes this information from the authoritative name server, puts it in cache, and gives a reply to the operating system. The operating system then gives this to the browser, and the browser then makes a connection to the IP address requesting the web page for www.example.com. Pretty cool, huh? While the process seems complex, and believe me, it is, this whole cycle takes less time than it takes you to blink an eye. DNS was designed to work extremely fast and efficiently. It is an integral part of the internet. Once you understand this, you can clearly see the many different facets and organizations that are responsible for a single DNS lookup. One lookup! There is a resolving name server, the root name server, the TLD name servers, and the authoritative name servers. If anyone were to dramatically change or filter any part of the DNS process, it could lead to disaster.
So yeah, as it says, it's a pretty complex system, and it all happens in all happens in a blink of an eye. So I mean, effectively, as soon as you hit enter on your keyboard, that page pretty much pops up, right? So there's technologies that help with that, obviously. Caching is one of them. So you've got your caching providers, but at the end of the day, you can see there's so many different systems that all have to work together and all have to coordinate in order for the internet to work for you. And that's all based on DNS. So pretty important. So what services use DNS? As I said, basically everything these days uses DNS. You know, apps on your phone will have DNS encoded. Certainly most of them, if not, I don't even think any of them anymore will encode IP addresses hard-coded, because then you've got to push an update, and if people don't get that update, they actually can't access the app or the service that the app needs to talk to. So that'll all be done by DNS. Any of your home network inside will also run DNS. It'll run like a .local or anything like that. Obviously, the campus here is all full on DNS. So everything you touch every day will run on the DNS. And if you take it out, all of those systems start to stop. As I point out there, I mean, even the dark web and crypto still run on forms of DNS. To get into the dark web, you have to jump out of the DNS and into the dark web, and then that still uses a .onion, right? So that's still a form of DNS. It's just a closed DNS. So everything goes there. So just a little bit of history about the DNS. Does anyone know what the official birth date of the internet is? 1st of January 1983. That's what they say. Before that, though, there was always networks that were connected, and basically it spawned from ARPANET, which is the Advanced Research Projects Agency, which is was in the US. Was mainly used by the military, and then moved on to being used by universities. And the way they managed it back then was mainly if they had file sharing and things going on. You know, like one university might be doing a research project on this topic, and another university wanted access to that. And so they would set up a way to come over the networks where they could share those files. And that was kind of the earlier days. What they used to do was they would keep a text file on their server, and that text file would have the name of the server they wanted to access and the IP address. And how they got that was, well, I knew somebody over at RMIT, for instance, so I called them up, said, hey, I need access to your server that's got this. And they would tell me over the phone, well, just add this entry with this IP address and you'll be able to connect. Once you connect to that internet-y thing that's never going to take off, we'll just share files on it. Then they would go and access that file and start sharing it. So again, DNS was designed for speed and pretty much not to run economies on, right? So, and I'll talk in a minute on how DNS has been a little bit more secured now to stop some of the attacks and things that are out there. But John Postel was one of the guys that was involved in universities and was really instrumental in getting the internet to take off, first through the universities and then greater. So it was very US-centric in the early days. It still is a bit US-centric, but they were basically, he was a pioneer of getting the internet to run and connecting all the universities together. Even internationally, that's where all the universities started to connect together. And it grew from there, you know, sending emails and those sorts of things. In 1985, there was, so country code top levels. That's what Australia sits at. We're called so we're a TLD and we're called a country code top level domain. And so every country in the world is issued a two characters for their country code. And so in 1985, you can see there was 3. By 1986, AU featured there. We started to grow that out to 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and then continued to grow. So Australia was connected globally to the internet in 1989. So we had domain names well before we had connections to the rest of the world. And so we had a lot of internal networks going. And some of the earlier networks here in Australia was ARPANET, which I think is still what the universities are connected to today. So it is a network that's been built upon, but that's how we were running the internet in Australia. The first connection was made between Melbourne and Hawaii unis. There was a guy that used to run the DNS for Australia. His name was Kevin Robert Els. He was at Melbourne Uni, and he basically had a little, like one of these, sat under his desk, and that's where the internet was run from. All the domain names used to live on one of these and was connected to a reasonably fast RNet connection, and that's how everyone started getting their domain names. But he was the first. He knew John, and they organised to send an email, get a connection, send an email between Hawaii and Australia, and that was our first link that got us running for the internet in Australia. And as I said, yeah, we're inside the top 10 for most domain names registered by 1994. So again, those early adopters that want to take things on. The other players in the industry came along a bit later. So IANA is where all of your technical papers and everything get ratified. So IANA is the custodians of the technical part of the internet. ICANN, who came a bit later, but now IANA sits under ICANN. They're the governance body that oversees the entire world. So they're the ones that will delegate a namespace to a country or to somebody within that country to run that namespace. They deal with registrars, all of the registries. So that's kind of who the top of the chain is these days. Protecting the digital economy. So as I said, DNS was never designed to be secure. That was designed to transmit information as fast as possible. It uses, does anyone know which protocol that DNS uses to make it fast? UDP, yep, great. And UDP has a packet restriction size. Anyone know what that is? 512 bytes. So you can stuff 512 bytes of information into that UDP packet. You blast it off and you don't care, right? Somebody gets it. Yep. Yeah, I'm sure they asked for it. They get it. If they didn't get it, they'll ask me again and I'll blast it off again, that 512 if I need it, right? So it's designed to be connectionless and designed to be fast. We do have TCP now, and pretty much everything will run over TCP on DNS because there's just so much information packed into DNS now. And so people want to have, know when their packets are coming, have that connection. So, but still a good chunk runs over UDP. If it can, it will. It's faster. Some of the attacks that have occurred over the years and that we now try to prevent against man in the middle and cache poisoning. So we did talk about, or the video talked about cache earlier on, and cache is basically when I get a response, it will come with a timer, and that timer says you can keep me for 10 minutes or 1 hour or whatever it happens to be. Now, again, in the early days, nobody thought, hey, I can get that answer quicker to a resolver and I can tell it to say anything it wants and it will keep it for as long as I want. And that's called cache poisoning. So you position yourself in the network where you can hit a resolver quicker than it gets a response back. And you basically, there's algorithms that worked out how many times you'd have to respond, and then you'd poison the cache. And you could make that for forever, right? And so all of a sudden you go, oh, I want to go to this bank, the cache is poisoned, and you end up over here at a very similar looking website. Punch all your details in, your bank account's drained. So that's one of those. There's response modifications. So again, as the packets traverse through the network, you can capture them, take them, replay them, and again, poison the cache or give a wrong answer. So you can interject, cut it off, and respond to. So as much as you could poison a cache, if you sat as close to the client and could get to the client quick enough, then you could also take a guess at what they were sniffing the network, and you could guess at what they were going to try and access from the DNS, and you just smash back a whole bunch of packets with that answer in pointing to where you want it to go. You could compromise that end client as well, and they would start storing that in the stub resolver and accessing that information. So what did the boffins do? They decided, well, we'll make DNS secure. We'll add all of these features. And so they created DNS security extensions. Now, this was about 1990s, early 1990s. They started with DNS security extensions. So that was even before I started playing with computers. I was already talking about how to secure the internet, or how to secure the DNS. And I'll play another video again in a moment of how DNSSEC works. If you're after additional information, Cloudflare has a really good write-up of what DNSSEC is and how it works, as does Akamai, two of the big content delivery network providers. This video, what is it, about a minute, just over a minute or so, should also give you a pretty good summary of what DNSSEC is.
John wants to buy a book online. He submits his credit card information like he always does. Everything seems normal, but what John doesn't know is that what he sees on his screen is just a set piece, set up by a scammer. How can this happen? Every computer on the internet has its own IP address. To save web users from having to remember long series of numbers, the domain name system connects unique domain names to the IP addresses. When John types a web address, his computer sends a request for the corresponding IP address, which enables his computer to contact the server hosting the website. The call is passed down a hierarchy of so-called name servers until it reaches a server that recognizes the address John wants to access. Normally, machines trust the first incoming answer. This means that a scammer can bombard the machines with false answers. The result is that John will reach a website that looks real, but is in fact controlled by the scammer. If John then enters his credit card information, it may be abused. There is a solution to this. Its name is DNSSEC. DNSSEC will ensure that John receives a valid answer from the name servers and that the answer has not been changed along the way. When a domain name is secured with DNSSEC, all replies to requests for its IP addresses get a signature. If a computer receives a reply about the domain without a correct signature, it rejects the reply. This way, John avoids accessing a false website. DNSSEC secures one piece of the big puzzle that is the internet and ensures that John and all the rest of us safely reach the website we want to visit.
Although I'd still want the computer that spat all the money out. I'm looking for one of those. Thank you very much, everyone. Are you jumping in?
I am jumping in.
All right. Kylie has a few words.
Thanks so much, Adam. Obviously, he'll be here after. If you have questions and you're marinating on them, please do chat to him. My name's Kylie. I'm from the membership team. As you can see, all the banners, all the QR codes around. Membership at auDA is free. That makes my job a little bit easier. And hopefully it's a bit of an easy sell for me today. But basically, I wouldn't be doing my job today if I didn't encourage you all to join. If you haven't already had a look at our website, as I mentioned, it's free. It takes about 30 seconds to sign up, and gives you access to events like this one. You've got a voice in the future of the .eu domain. So as Adam was talking about the launch of domain spaces, as a .eu member, we do actually go out to our members for consultations for things like this. You get notified of any changes in these spaces. So yeah, you're more than welcome to contact us for those things too. Regular updates on industry trends, and we also do a weekly newsletter that I put together, so that's always good. We have lots of special offers too as well. We work with partners such as Cinch Security and Lumify Work for online education and all those kinds of things. So you can upskill in your own time and at your own pace. So why do we have members? Basically, the .eu is for all Australians. It's important we get a input from a diverse range of people. We want to hear from young people like you so that not everyone looks like me, looks like Andrew, looks like Adam, who's contributing to these conversations. We want young people involved in these conversations. So I encourage you to join. And .eu members are critical stakeholders in this area too. So probably the most exciting thing I have to talk about today, apart from membership, which is obviously fabulous, is auDA has recently announced several summer job opportunities to work with us. So opportunities are available to IT students, computer science students, international policy students. Make sure I'm saying the right thing here. And you would be working with our compliance team. So helping auDA make a difference to reduce domain name system abuse, DNS abuse, and making the .au domain safer for everyone. As you can see in the details here, these are paid positions between the 1st of December and the 28th of February in 2024. So the applications close on the 13th of November. So please do apply through our website by emailing through careers@auda.org.au with your resume. Of course, please approach us, ask any questions you can this afternoon, this evening. But that is all from me. We would love to hear from you. Thank you again to the Monash Cybersecurity Club for inviting us today, and for Adam giving us all of his expertise and his fabulous videos as well. Thank you.